Oh, yay, there's my voice. Okay, so so hi everyone, and welcome to the first session of the Trey Lyles Book Club. My name is Katie DeCourt. I'm the Adult Services Specialist with Sacramento Public Library, and I will be the staff facilitator for this discussion. I'm thrilled to be joined by Trey Lyles, veteran forward for the Sacramento Kings. In collaboration with Sacramento Public Library, Trey and this book club are aiming to create a space where fans and fellow book enthusiasts can connect and foster meaningful conversations around some of his favorite books. So today we are starting with The Creative Act, A Way of Being by legendary music producer Rick Rubin. So to get things started, I would love to go around the room and hear from everyone in attendance. Please introduce yourself and share one of your reading goals for 2024. So I'll start. My name is Katie. And one of my goals for this year was to write like a short little blurb about every book that I've read. So it's just a way to remind myself at the end of the year what I liked about each book. So Trey, would you like to go next?
My name is Trey, obviously. My goal for this year was to actually start this book club, to get it going and kind of get some life into it. So I'm glad I was able to do that, and we were able to be here together today.
Go ahead, Donna.
Don't push?
Oh,
Okay, great.
there you go.
Hi, my name is Donna. I'm a librarian with the Fair Oaks Library, and my goals for this year would be to expand my nonfiction reading realms. So,
I'm Thomas. I'm a library assistant with Mobile Services Department. My reading goals are to expand past my comfortable genres.
Hello. Hi, my name is Alma. My reading goals is to read additional books so I can share with my students. I teach second and third grade.
Hello, everyone. My name is Charity. I'm an artist and a new mom, and my goal is to spend less time on my phone and read more so my son can be excited about reading just as I was when I was growing up.
My name is Krista. My reading goal, I read 43 books last year, and so I was trying to get up to that this year, but expand more than the genres that I was reading last year. So I was trying to branch out to more like self-help books, things like that, as a recreation therapist that I can recommend to my patients as well, too.
you don't have to push.
Hi, I'm Kathy Rodriguez, and I love books. I used to actually work in high school in our children's section of the library. So growing up from a small town, books were a way that I really found the world to be bigger. And my goal this year is actually to start applying from all of this reading and start to write my own stories. And so that's my hope for this year.
Hi, I'm Curtis, and my goal is to finish books, physical books. I've been, too committed to digital books, and I think it's honestly affecting me visually and things like that. And so physically reading has been a goal, especially as a grandfather now. And so I got to read and lead by example. So here I am.
Hello, I'm Gia. I'm a student at Folsom Lake College, and I'm majoring in English. One of my reading goals would be to stray from genres that I usually don't, or stray into genres that I usually don't read.
Hi, I'm Tori, and one of my reading goals would just be to read more, especially finding books like this, like self-help books, so I can actively apply it to my everyday life.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Ganeben, and if you're anything like me, I like to check things off, so I use Storygraph to track my reads, and I set my goal at 30 this year. And the other reading goal I had is to join book clubs, so I found one, and support local independent stores when I travel, because I travel a lot for my job, so that's been exciting, and this was an added bonus to be another part of another book club, so thank you for this opportunity.
Hi, my name is Tip, and I have a list of books on my phone that I want to read, and so the goal is to catch up so that I end the year with fewer books on the list than I started with, but I'm always adding to the list too, so I don't mind if I ever get there.
That's yeah.
Hey everyone, my name's Jake. I think my goal this year for reading is to just be a little bit more intentional. I usually read books like this, like self-help type, and it's easy for me to consume them, but usually I can just put it back on the shelf and almost forget entirely about it. So with something like this, trying to remember it and more deliberately act and remember a lot of the lessons in it. So excited for 2024. Happy to be here.
My name's Lonnie, and I am a chef of sorts. So I guess my goal this year is to get more into reading again, because it's not something that I get to just like do, and it's a nice break from, I guess, the active work that I do. So yeah, that's the goal.
My name is Malia, and this year I've set a rule for myself. If I start a new series or movie, I have to read the book series first.
My name is Lisa, and I just want to read more and then utilize what I learn to give back so others can learn through it.
Hi, I'm Megan. My goal, I guess, reading goal this year is actually to buy less books because I have a lot of books and utilize the Sacramento Library, the ebooks rentals, and only use the ebook rentals or library rentals or the books I already own because I have way too many.
Hi, I'm Mary Swantek. I guess my goals for 2024 and I guess reading in general is more to avoid just the books like fantasy that help you escape from everyday life and look more into the books that might help me develop my own skills and myself as a person and grow internally.
Hi, I'm Melissa, and a couple of weeks ago I just walked around the house and made a list of all the books that I bought that I haven't gotten around to reading, and there's stacks and piles. So I wrote them all down, and I decided that I'm going to go through them in order, and I'm going to read them all before I buy another book. That's what I'm saying, but y'all know that.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Jamie. My goal for this year is to continue reading self-help books. It's definitely my favorite genre, so just continue putting that towards my everyday life and bettering my lifestyle.
Hi, I'm Natalie, and my reading goal for this year was to read more fiction, because I'm really bad at it, because I overanalyze, like, why would she do that, or that would never happen. So I'm trying to do that. I already read this year Kendrick by Octavia E. Butler. It's like a sci-fi, really good book, and I was really proud of myself. I finished it and didn't say this would never happen, but I'm really proud of myself.
Hi, I'm Nicholas, and my goals are to read more and read what I like and to use the library more often.
Yeah. Thank you all for sharing your goals. Now we all have accountability buddies now, which I think is pretty cool. So yeah, I just want to say a quick hello to all the readers that are watching from home. So hi, Mom and Dad. And to remind our book club members that we are live streaming this program. So please speak into the microphone when sharing your thoughts, just so everyone can hear you clearly. We do have a staff member who is monitoring the chat on Zoom, but the focus will be on asking and answering questions here in person. So I'm excited to hear your thoughts about this book because I found a lot of really great examples and applications for the ideas that were shared. So first few questions I have for Trey specifically. So can you share with the group what drew you to this book initially, and then what you hope readers will take away from this book and from this discussion?
What drew me to this book was I was on TikTok. I was scrolling, and a podcast came up with Rick Rubin. He was speaking about his life and just the book in general. And it was about a 20-minute clip. I was telling you earlier, it was about a 20-second clip, sorry. And I went to the YouTube to watch the actual podcast because I thought he was talking about some good things and the little tidbits that he was giving in that TikTok. And I watched about the first 15 minutes of the podcast, and I was like, wow, this guy has some wisdom and is saying some things that are like relevant to myself, and I would hope a lot of other people. So maybe this would be a good idea for me to go ahead and get this book and dive into it. And it just so happened to be the first book that I chose to do for the book club, because after reading, I would say probably 35, 40 pages, I was like, okay, this is going to be a good book. This is going to be a good read. I think it could help a lot of people, and I just hope that, you know, after reading it, everyone here and everybody else that has read it just can kind of look internally and figure out things inside that maybe they didn't know at first, that can help them resolve problems or anything in general, and help them be more creative, as not even as an artist, but just as a person in general, because you don't have to be an artist to create. So yeah.
Thank you for that. So one of the pages that I did print for everybody was the list of 78 areas of thought, as you know, covered by Rick Rubin in this book. So I guess we're just going to throw out the question is, which thoughts did you connect with and which thoughts did you learn from? And then just kind of like do a little hand raise so we know where to go and we don't talk over each other.
I'll start it off.
Yeah, Trey can
I
start,
see
yeah.
one right here that says non-competition. I would say personally for me, just growing up as an athlete at the highest level pretty much since high school, it's just you were always competing to be better. You were always competing to do more. And it's hard when you put that type of pressure on yourself to always want to, you know, one up, or you see other people doing well and you want to do what they're doing, but just being non-competitive with it and understanding that we all have our own journey, we all have our own walks of life that we go through, and you know, we just have to be, you know, happy with it. And as long as we're putting our best foot forward, there's no reason to compete with other people, you know, in that sense. So that stood out for me.
Yeah, I was going to say my notes say non-competition. Everyone is on their own journey. So it sounds like, yeah, we're on the same thought process. Anyone else? Would you like to shout out one of the thoughts? Yeah, Melissa, go ahead.
I'm going to jump out habits. I thought that was really interesting because we're all taught like good habits are important. But he talks about switching up your habits, like habits get stale after a while. And that resonated with me because I do think it's true. And I think getting out of a habit or switching it up sometimes makes a difference. So that worked.
Yeah, go ahead, Jamie.
I say rules. I grew up in a very structured home. You know, my dad was in the Marines and law enforcement, so I grew up in there's a good and bad way to everything, a way of thinking and doing things. So I feel like, in a way, it almost hindered my creativity growing up because I thought, like, oh no, I can't think this way, I can't go out this circle or this bubble of way of thinking. So that's something I've kind of worked on as I've grown up, of allowing myself to be more creative, step out of my comfort zone, and, you know, be okay with there not being as good or bad things, you know.
Yeah. Thank you. Go ahead, Lisa.
So I also picked rule, and the one statement that stood out for me is that it widens the audience's reality, allowing them to glimpse life through a different window. And right now, especially I feel like in our world, we need to see more. So.
Yeah, have more openness and self-awareness, which we're more, yeah. Go ahead, Stephanie.
I had no idea what the book was about. I just was told, like, you know, they said read this book, so I read it. So I actually want to say that it's the first part. Everyone is a creator. I've been really self-conscious and kind of hard on myself about creative. I used to blog and I like to do social media, and I was like, that's not creative. But really it is because it's what I prefer to do and what I find valuable. So just opening it and reading that in the beginning kind of drew me in pretty quick without having any idea what this is. I didn't know who Rick Rubin was. I just looked him up here while we were sitting here. So I really appreciated that and giving me that frame of reference for the rest of the book, and to remind myself, like, I feel like a lot of this was thoughts that I thought, but maybe I couldn't verbalize to anybody. So it was really helpful to just kind of apply to my life and know that, okay, other people are thinking this way. He just put it more eloquently than I could ever.
Yeah, that's fair. Go ahead, Tiff. Yeah.
So I want to go back to the non-competition chapter. Do you think the author would agree then that, like, awards shows that award, you know, artists, you know, some are awarded over other artists, and that can create, you know, people feeling snubbed? Or do you think the author would agree that those are good for art, or does it incentivize some sort of competitive struggle? So I'm just posing that question, I guess.
Did you want to go? Yeah. I don't mind jumping in as an artist. So I have a visual arts background, but I grew up in a society, I'm Ugandan, so I grew up in a society where artists can dream, right? And so I was raised to believe, like most African households, you'll be a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, and that's it. And so I didn't want to be an engineer, and I ended up going to architecture school. But I went to an art school, and it was very competitive. I thought by going to an art school, I would be liberated. But we do live in a world where we're being prepared to survive, right? We have to feed. And so this book came, I wish it had come years earlier in my life, because I saw it as a manual, right? And so I like the disclaimer that Rick poses at the beginning where he's like, listen, you can take these words and do as you want with them, right? We do live in a competitive world, so he tells people, hey, there will be award shows, there will be the need to survive, the need for you to be economically viable, but the creative act, I like that it's just an act. It's like defiance. It's like just allowing that energy, that inspiration to flow through you as a writer, as whatever you are. And for me, this has been very, very enlightening, because I moved back here to be an artist. And then I was like, but I have to feed myself mostly. And then I had a child. So and then it just responding to you and then going to why I love this book and I came for the discussion. I don't know if there's parents in here, but there's a shift that goes within you when you realize that you are fully responsible for how another human being succeeds or fails in this world. And it felt like, how ready am I for this? How am I going to tell someone to be the best version of themselves when I feel like I have failed myself as a creative? Because I ended up working in tech and doing all of these things because I needed to survive, and I was doing an injustice to who I am at the core as a creative. So this book has been reminding me that it's possible to survive, to compete, to excel, or not excel, but ultimately to just act in the way that you're being drawn to, driven to, inspired to, I don't know, all kinds of words as an artist. And then the thing that stood out for me was actually in the chapter of patience, but the thing that stood out for me was impatience. Impatience is an argument with reality. The desire for something to be different from what we're experiencing in the here and the now. A wish for time to speed up, tomorrow to come sooner, to relive yesterday, or to close your eyes and then open them and find yourself in another place. And that is ultimately my reason for obsessing over this book. Is I'm in a constant state of, all right, yeah, I hear you, Rick. I have so much to give. Let's do this. I want to succeed. I want to be in a gallery. It's like, calm down. Right now, where you at, you know? So it's by my bedside. I'm reading it every day. It's my third time going through it. Thank you to the public library for having an audio version book, because then I can listen to it while I'm, changing diapers and doing whatever. And it's been very life-changing for me as an artist, and I hope for everybody else that's looking to tap into their creative side.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and thanks again to Trey for picking such a great book. And I do have questions about the audiobook, which we can get to later. But yeah, go ahead, Tori.
So I would say I probably identified the most with the self-awareness. I think when reading that, I just think it's so important to be self-aware. And I think that, once you build that trust with yourself and trust with your intentions, your purpose, your uniqueness, I think it really does open up the doors to a lot of different opportunities that you might not once have saw. I just know personally when I have done this and applied this, that it has minimized the amount of time I spend in fear and judging myself or having other people judge what I put out there. So I think that was really key for me, and it really stuck with me. Yeah.
I'm going to comment back on Tip's question. My hands were all in the book because I had so many pages that I could go to. And I think the main thing is that in regards to award shows or anything in general, his main question was, or his main statement was just to be, as long as you're fulfilled in yourself, like it doesn't really matter. Like one of these, the point of view is the goal of art isn't to attain perfection. The goal is to share who we are and how we see the world. So, how we see things isn't going to be a Grammy nomination for other people, but if we're satisfied with our work, I think that's the biggest, takeaway from what he was trying to say in regards to that.
Yes.
I think, oh, do I have to push it?
No, you're okay.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I think for me, I like the abundant mindset chapter, because sometimes if you create something that's really good or you do something really well or have success in an area, you think you can't duplicate it. And you have to have a mindset like we're in an abundance world and not have the scarcity mindset that he was talking about. Like the best example, and I'm using this, not mine, it's more universal. Like Usher made Confessions. And he has not made an album like Confessions since. But he's had like this great success, in live performance that the Confessions tour didn't match, which was a great concert. Kanye West opened for him. But I digress. So I just like this mindset. So if I do something well, sometimes I have the anxiety of like, I'm never going to be able to duplicate this type of success. But this chapter reminded me that you will duplicate the success in some type of way, shape, or fashion. So I really, really love that chapter.
Go ahead, Jake. Yeah.
I'll extend off of that a little bit. I like the discussion of success in this book. I've been someone that can feel success as are people looking? Do they think it's successful? And so the discussion on success is something that you achieve on a personal level. And when you create that piece of art or you look inward and you are truly happy with it, that is the ultimate, checkbox that means we did a good job. And in the discussion of success, in comparing ourselves to others, that comparison can be collaborative. In that discussion of like award shows and competition, I think the flip side of competition is that collaboration. And so I think there was an analogy on, I think the song that was written was God Only Knows, like in the 60s or 70s, and the Beatles heard that, and they were just floored, inspired by it. And the attitude wasn't, we need to do something better than this, like we need to make the best album. They were inspired by it, and they played it on repeat, and they came out with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club. And that success for them was making an album that they loved, not just an album that we still listen to today. So I like that discussion as it encourages us to remember that success is for us, and if other people enjoy that art, that's awesome, and we get to share it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if we create something that we can look back on and smile at, then it was a successful day, and we keep doing it, and hopefully we get to recreate that.
Thank you. I know some folks have already shared like passages that really resonated with them, and I saw as people came in, they also have a lot of sticky notes, like I do in my book. Would anybody like to share one of the passages that they flagged and maybe their thoughts as they were reading it? Because I also have a lot. So yeah, we'll do Stephanie, and then we'll come back to Trey because he's got a lot of tabs too. Yeah. Go ahead, Stephanie.
I just wanted to call out page 37, the look for clues, how he referenced that his appendix burst. I just thought it was insane. And he just went to the bookstore, and he's really just telling you to look at the first word or first line in a random book. That's his like idea, but how he just drops in that he now still has his appendix. He didn't listen to the doctor. And so just that idea of, looking at clues and kind of understanding yourself and maybe not listening to everyone's word exactly as they, even though it's a doctor. I'm not saying don't listen to your doctor. It just was an interesting perspective, and then but he did it so quick, and it was just like, can I get a little more? Like, did you have some other surgery, or like, are you okay? Like, but I just thought it was really interesting how he just dropped that little nugget in there in that reference to looking at clues.
Yeah, so. I think Donna's follow up with that. Yeah.
I did the audiobook, and I audibly gasped when he said that.
But yeah, Trey, did you want to share one of the many?
Yeah, I have a lot myself. I think like I'm a picture taker of pages that I like and stuff like that. So a lot of mine were the one-offs where they were just two lines or one words type thing. So the one I want to share is failure is the information you need to get where you're going. That resonates a lot with me being an athlete my whole life and just in general. It's just you can try 100 different things, and 138th maybe been the thing that you needed to do. So just continuing to go out there and try different things and being okay with failing and not holding it, yourself to not giving yourself a hard time about it, because that's going to happen. So that resonated with me.
Melissa, go ahead.
One that I like, just a couple of lines. Expressing oneself in the world and creativity are the same. It may not be possible to know who you are without somehow expressing it. And that just really hit home. It was like about, this is how you go through your life in the world. And you walk out into the world, and everything you do can express your creativity. So it's what you are, not rather than this product you put out there. And I think we're so used to thinking of it differently.
Seeing Lonnie? Yeah, we'll do Lonnie, and then we'll come back to Nicholas.
The page, 354, in the section about play, there's just like a one line sort of in the middle, and it just says, take art seriously without going about it in a serious way. I think especially if you find yourself lucky enough to do something creative for, to get money, it can be difficult sometimes to not be too serious about it. So just honestly, this whole section, it's really small, but it really stood out to me as something that was kind of checked me, I guess.
That's great. Thank you. And then Nicholas, did you want to go?
Yeah, the part that I related to was when is the work done? There is no formula or method for finding this answer. It is intuition. And I just, related to that, and, at a certain point, you know it's done. And if you keep going, it might make it worse, but then you have to go back. But, there's not really a way to tell, but you just know.
Yeah. It's that gut feeling that you're just like, okay,
yes.
I'm good. I can put this down and focus on something else. So, Is there any? Yeah, Megan, go ahead.
Okay, I'm not much of a note taker, to be honest. I have made 3 highlights. One of them was the appendix one where I said, this is nuts. So that was my first, I was like, what? And the other one, I don't find myself to be inherently a very creative person, honestly. So the one that I did highlight and felt something with me was beware the assumption that the way you work is the best way simply because it is the way you've done it before. I do work with a lot of change management in my job, and so that really resonated on a big portion of my job and how I deal with people, and it's something that I think most people should kind of keep in mind a lot of the time. Have the thought of other ways to work too sometimes.
Yeah, leaning into innovation and efficiency and stuff like that. Yeah. Thomas,
Yeah. I liked on page 112. It's the end of the chapter, listening. And it says, listening then is not just awareness, it's freedom from accepted limitations. And I thought that was a really beautiful way of promoting kind of presence and accepting people and situations and allowing that to allowing life to be multiplicitous, I guess, taking in everything and allowing yourself to be inspired from that.
Yeah, well, go ahead, Stephanie, and then I'll tack on to the listening chapter. So yeah, go ahead, Stephanie.
I pulled from the same chapter, Thomas, and I just thought it was really interesting. I try to be an active listener. I'm not always the best, especially in this digital world and Zoom. But when he says, when the listener is totally present, the speaker often communicates differently. Most people aren't used to being fully heard, and it can be jarring for them. And I sat there and I was like, yeah, if someone's intently looking at me while I'm speaking, it is a little jarring. Because sometimes you're like, wow, they're actually listening, or are they listening, or are they thinking? So it reminded me to be an active listener with everybody in my life, not just family and friends, but even at work. 'Cause, you know, you see someone, I work virtually, so you see someone, you know, typing while you're talking, and like, are they paying attention? But it was just a good reminder for me to be that active listener that I want to be, and that I want to be jarring to someone. I want to like scare someone. I'm listening so intently. I'm doing it so well. So
You feel like I'm really here, like
Yeah.
in this moment with you. So it's like it's that shared like experience that you have. So I was like, I'll go for mine. I also flagged the listening chapter, and so I think it was that very first part. It says, "When listening, there is only now. In Buddhist practice, a bell is rung as part of the ritual. The sound instantly pulls the participant into the present moment, and it's a small reminder to wake up." So this is my turn into asking if anyone listened to the audiobook, because what I really appreciated about this particular piece was he rings a chime in between each chapter on the audiobook. So is there anyone here who listened to the audiobook? And then I was just curious on your thoughts on his narrative performance and just your thoughts overall. Tip, did you want to go? Saw a hand. Yeah.
The audiobook was great. It was very therapeutic listening to him perform the book. But the interesting thing to me was after getting the hard copy, going and seeing how it was laid out and seeing that, there was 78 chapters, and where did the little vignettes, the little stanzas. I didn't, listening to it, you don't know what, is this just another paragraph, or but seeing it visually laid out is a very different experience consuming it that way.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. Donna? Yeah, we'll do Donna and then Charity. Yeah.
So for me, it kind of felt, listening to the audiobook, kind of like a meditation guidance, or like because he has a very soothing voice, and with the chimes, and you're just like, oh, okay, this is really relaxing. So.
Yeah, Charity, go ahead.
So I read the book first. A friend had given me the book earlier, and then I didn't even know about the audiobook. And then ahead of this, I was like, I'm going to go listen to the audiobook. Completely different experience.
Yes.
And then you start to realize, well, Rick is a creative, and he's been like meditating every morning since he was like 14 for like obscene amounts of time. Like, he's totally tapped in. This whole thing is his creative act. And then I started to follow like how he's doing his press releases and his promos and everything, and it's like, wow, what a genius. Because the book is like, it's art. I mean, just the cover, just so sexy. And then, and then like the layout, and you have like one sentence on 2 pages, because I can do that. This is his creative act. And then listening to him speak, it's like a completely different creative act. You can feel him pose, breathe, intonations. He has this like soothing grandfather of creativity appeal, and it's like a whole creative act. It's a beautiful creative act. Yeah.
Did anyone on this side of the room do the audiobook and would like to share? Mary? Yeah, go ahead.
So I started reading the audiobook, and I heard the chimes, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I feel like it was I was sitting on my yoga mat and reading it, and it was just relaxing. But I would screenshot the parts I liked, and it was confusing when I came to the hard copy book to like mark my pages.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, there's actually not they're not chapters like the same as it is in the audiobook. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I also loved the cover art, so I was reading a lot online about how they bound it in cloth, and that he was really referring to the sun, like on the cover. And then I noticed the back had like no sun in the center. And I thought it was super interesting, because in one of the chapters he talks about a house. So like if you have a house, it looks like a house when it has the door and the windows. If you take away the door and the windows, but if you actually take away the outline of the house, it's no longer a house. And like interpreting different things in this book can just be interpreted in so many different ways, just like the cover art can. So I thought both the audiobook and the hard copy book were both beneficial to read and have a little bit of each, but I was glad I didn't know the difference until I had seen both of them.
Yeah, agreed. I was like, I also did it in both formats, so mostly for research for the book club, but it was still good. So did you have anything to add, or?
I did not do the audiobook, but hearing everybody talk about it, I might have to now. So I will do that as well.
It's narrated by Rick Rubin himself, and like everyone was saying, it's a very deep, like meditative like experience where it's kind of like you can really sit and be like mindful, just like in the moment.
Yeah, he has a voice that captures your attention.
Yes.
Like like she said, like a grandfather voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Very good. Yeah, Stephanie.
I think halfway through it, I wished I listened to it on audiobook because I'm like a stan for hardcover reading books. Like, I can't not do it, but I realized that this one might have been a really good one, and I just went on Libby and got it, and there's 59 other audio ones available if anybody else wants to listen to it. So I am going to now go back and listen to it on audiobook.
Wonderful, yeah.
Thank you for the recommendation.
Yeah.
I also
Krista,
listened to
yeah.
the audiobook, and I feel like, unpopular opinion, I wasn't a fan. I felt like it was really shallow when he talked about a lot of things until he really spoke about music. But I think viewing through my lens as a recreation therapist, where I go in and use recreation and play and leisure and a therapeutic module, definitely affected my view, and I wish he had like elaborated more in some areas, but in the areas where I work professionally, it was like just fell flat for me. So I actually didn't go back and like look at it physically, but now that I'm like looking through the book after finishing it, I'm like, okay, I see how it can read so much differently physically than how it comes across audibly. But there were so many things that I did enjoy about it that I work professionally and teach that he talks about in the book. So that was fun in that part. But I really loved like the play category, area of thought, because like I feel like as adults we lose that ability to play, and it's hard to get back into that play aspect, especially if we've grown up where we didn't get to play as kids, or we didn't have that opportunity to play as kids. How do we bring that playfulness as like an adult still back into it, right? And that ability to have that playfulness throughout life is really what's going to add to longevity in life. So that's what really resonated for me, like professionally, but also like personally as well.
Yeah, Lonnie, or go ahead. Yeah.
I started out listening to it, and he's, lovely to listen to, but it didn't work for me. Reading it and like having, the layout of it helped it make a lot more sense. I think now that I've like done it, consuming it in mass via the audiobook was like not really the route to go. I think maybe in the future I'll revisit it, but in like, listening to like the different sections as like a daily kind of practice, as opposed to like, oh, I'm going to read this book. I'd be like, I need to check in with myself and just like picking one of the sections and hearing, somebody's take on it. So, yeah.
I was like, that's a good approach to it too. I was like, Mary brought up the cover art, which was another one of my questions. So what did you all think about the cover art? What do you think about the like minimalist approach where it's gray, the black like image, like his name is very tiny, the print is very tiny. So I just wanted your thoughts. We're judging books by their cover, which people do, and it's okay. But like, if you were to see this on display at your library or bookstore, do you think you would pick it up? And then why?
I wonder where the dust jacket is.
No, that's fair.
I definitely thought it was supposed to come with when I picked up the physical copy, I was just like, oh, this is cloth. This is gonna get dirty. This is all right. I just have to accept it. So, yeah.
But it's like an art book, I feel like.
Yeah.
It's like, it is a work of art in itself, and I think not everybody can get away with this. Like, you have to have a certain like clout in the world to be able to get a publisher to make a book like this for you. But it's so him. It's like very Zen and very Buddhist and very minimal, and I just totally think it captured him. But it's a pretty bold act.
Yeah, go ahead, Megan.
I worked at Barnes & Noble for like 11 years or something like that. Yeah. So I actually think, don't do it anymore, but I always think about this, and when you say like in your bookstore, the reason, what I don't like is that this is on this side, because if you have bestseller stickers, it does cover it. So that is like the first thing I always think about, and like, they would fall off this type of material. So I weirdly think about like that aspect of it. Of like it needs to be saran wrapped or like, something along those lines. But I'm like, it doesn't work as well on a bookstore shelf because of that. But that's just me being insane.
Yeah, it's like you have unique insight.
Yes,
So
I think about that on every book. Like, oh, that's a bad dust jacket for that.
Yeah.
Like, you have to take that off. It ruins the book.
I like the minimalistic design because it doubles kind of as a coffee table book. Like if you like to decorate with books around. That's why I didn't mark it up or anything because I was like, well, I'll be putting this in the house and displaying it. I didn't know it was a son until you mentioned it. I just assumed because he's a record producer, it was a record.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. That's kind of cool. But yeah, I think it's dope. I like it.
Yeah, I like how it felt just holding in the materials made out of, and I like she said, I like the minimalistic look as well. So, and just knowing or seeing videos of his recording studio and different things like that just fits his personality and his zen perfectly, I think. So, I like it.
Yeah, Charity, go ahead.
When I first picked up the book, I was like, who's this guy? I watched several of his YouTube videos, but I didn't pay attention to the name. There's one of my favorite interviews. He's with Kendrick Lamar, and they're talking about like love and phenomenal, one of the greatest interviews ever. But I forgot about the guy. He produced for Jay-Z or whatever. He's not very memorable. And then so my friend was like, dude, it's Rick Rubin. I was like, wow, what a designy, fancy cover, And I thought it was also like, oh, he's into music, record player, And then what actually drew me to the book is when I opened it, it was the note pages at the end. And then I was like, he's inviting us to like play with the book, to write into it. The spaces, the white spaces, this is just what I think. And he says nothing in this book is known to be true. It's a reflection of whatever. He's just saying, hey, take it and do what you want with it. You may disagree with it, you may like it, you may not like it. This is just my ideas, these are my thoughts. And I find that he allows you to, like what everybody's saying, like, I'm going to go and get a shiny cover to put on top, or I'm going to scribble notes, or there's like 2 pages, just blank space. You could make some art, draw, paint, be inspired. And so that's what I love about the book is you could literally just grab pens or ink and make it your own. Like he just gave you a blank canvas. Well, it's not blank, but yeah, just do what you want with it.
Yeah,
That's what I like
it's a
about it.
starter template
Yeah.
to where it's like, yeah, you can use it how you see fit.
Yeah, how you
So,
see
yeah, one thing that's been popping up that I've noticed is that a lot of people maybe weren't familiar with Rick Rubin before picking up this book. I am in that camp as well. So I was just wondering, who was familiar with Rick Rubin beforehand? And for those of you who weren't, what did you learn about him through the process of reading this book? Lisa.
I had no idea who he was.
Yeah.
And I greatly appreciated the ability to think about the way of being because it's been a struggle for me for many years. And I almost felt as if this was somebody, him, whatever, saying it's okay. And so it hit me at a time in my life where I really needed it. And just with regards to the cover, so I'm one of those people who rip off the cover thing because it annoys me. And so this gave me, like, there was nothing that I could think about other than me because there was nothing here other than this very basic. So I appreciated that. Like, it didn't put anything on me.
It's just kind of, he's like inviting you in.
Yeah.
And then, like Tori was saying, it's just like that whole piece about like self-awareness and you're learning about yourself by reading through this book. So, anyone else? Krista, go ahead.
I really loved, I did not know who he was. It was funny, we got with friends and they were like, oh, Rick Rubin. I was like, I don't know him. He's like, I love him. Tell me about the book. I was like, I'll give it to you when I'm done. And I loved how in-depth he got into when he was talking about writing music and making music and collaborating with others and his process, because you can clearly tell, especially listening in the audiobook, that is his art. Like, that is what he is good at. That's what he enjoys doing. That's where he finds his spark, right? And so I loved that part of how in-depth it was. And then after knowing about that, I then went in to look into it more, and I was like, wow, you've been doing this for decades, like, and you're still so very relevant. It's not like you only created one thing and didn't create anything else. Like, you're still very relevant in it. So it I think it was really nice too, as someone who doesn't make music, to be able to listen to that and like hear their aspect of that creativity.
Yeah, go ahead, Curtis.
Yeah, I knew about Rick because I love hip hop. I grew up in hip hop when the era when he was young in Run DMC and starting Def Jam, and so I like witnessed it and participated as a fan of it. And so just seeing him grow and work in rock and other art and genres which I enjoy, finding out about getting to the library goal and then finding out, oh, there's a book club, and then, oh, Trey has a book club, and it's a Rick Rubin book, led to me just applying for this because that was inspiration from Rick and what he's done, what I've seen him be a part of, that was just a part of my life. So it was awesome to begin reading. Just one thing I would like to share with that stuck to me, one of the things in translation, it was the first thing I went to, just jumped to that topic for whatever reason. But to touch on also what you had asked about Tip earlier, consider your craft as an energy alive in you. It's just as much a part of the cycle of evolution as other living things are. It wants to grow, it wants to flower. To hone your craft is to honor creation. It doesn't matter if you become the best in your field. By practicing to improve, you are fulfilling your ultimate purpose on this planet. And that speaks for itself. And so that just resonated, and that is just Rick, and I appreciated it. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it sounds like there was like multiple entry points into this book from like a bunch of different avenues. So anyone else thoughts on Rick Rubin or what you learned about him through this process? Oh, Thomas, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, you can really tell that he cultivates like an open space for people, and so you can like understand why he has such a like wide like range of artists who have worked with him, and how much success he's been able to have with all of those different kinds of people. So yeah, it really comes through in like his openness and presence with people.
I would say his ability to adapt, just as Thomas said, to the different people he's had to work with. It's hard for people to give up that control over a certain environment, and just reading and hearing him talk about how he's been able to do that with probably hundreds of artists, it just shows that he's capable and capable of having that openness, and a lot of people aren't able to do that. So if we're able to do that, it will help us out in more ways than we're can think of probably. So
Yeah, we can be the best version of ourselves and then in turn like improve society. Go ahead, Krista.
I really enjoyed it it was one in the later chapters, and I can't remember which one it was since I did listen to the audiobook, but it was talking about how he collaborated with other artists, and it's like if you have A and you have B, you don't just choose one or the other, you come up with C, right? Because you're not asking someone to collaborate to only pick what one or the other person is doing. It's a collaboration, you're working on it together, and I thought that was that's one of the parts that I really enjoyed listening to, because that is really, you're not looking for, oh, is A better or is B better? It's really coming together for the both of them and having something new, right? And you're working with someone else for a reason, for a purpose, and that purpose is joining into that C option. So I thought that was I really enjoyed that part.
Yeah, I was like collaboration was one of the areas of thought. I'm just like, it ties in nicely with that as well. I was going to say that the tone of this book was described as inspiring, reflective, and thought-provoking. So from those, or even, so what 2 or 3 words would you use to describe this book to another reader? It could be one of those 3, or it could be one that's coming to you. Everyone has their thinking faces on. So, Charity, go ahead.
I would add a word.
Okay.
Edifying. And I think it stems from just who he is as a person, in a career where he's helped bring out the best in people, where he says there's something within you, you have this great ability, this idea, why don't we do this with it? Why don't we do this with it? So he's helped so many people just become the best versions of themselves, I like when he was talking about like Red Hot Chili Peppers, you know, before they were like junkies and, you know, they weren't really making their best music. And he's like, I see something within you and I can help you make one of the greatest albums ever if you, you know, take this path. And so for him to just do that with, you know, the big names and then create a manual which I feel is him attempting to still edify whatever creative is out there in the world that is not directly working with Rick Rubin. Like, this is an opportunity for everybody to have a Rick Rubin relationship. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do Kathy and then Stephanie, and then we'll come to this side of the room. So go ahead, Kathy.
I'm actually going to take one of the words that you said, the reflective.
Yeah.
And I've heard some of you guys say this already. So if someone asks me, like, how would you describe yourself? Creative is not the word that I would come at, you know, at the top. I might say, like, innovative or enthusiastic or kind, all these different things. But what I really liked from this and what I like from hearing all of you is that creativity has like a bigger definition. Like, there's this part of the beginning where I really liked it could be a conversation. It could be the way you talk. It could be, you know, it's just the way you are is being creative. And, you know, this whole collaboration part, when I think about like what I do, it's creating community and bringing it together. And I had something totally different that I was at today, and someone said after I spoke, they're like, that's like your gift, to be able to speak and bring everyone together. And it occurred to me as I was driving over, that is like a part of a creativity that I don't often give enough credit for, but it is like this openness of bringing everyone together. Because for me, what's more powerful than anything else I can do, it's not like alone, it's what you bring when everyone comes together. That energy, that uplifting, that elevation, and being able to go in community and see, like, this is something together that we built. Like, I talk about that a lot, like when the work that we do in Diverse Corridors, you know, in 10 years when we go by, we're gonna know that together we built something that the rest of the community is continuing to enjoy and set, and that is a form of creativity. And so that's what I really liked about this, and I think it was, I guess, an openness too, of being able to say, like, it's more than you think. It is okay that you're not paint, or I'm a horrible singer, so all these things are there, right? But the fact that he worked with so many different people, and that listening part that we talked about too, if you stop and listen, how much more you can gain from that too. So I liked that part of everything, and I appreciated that it gave me a different view of even myself in that way.
Okay, yeah, so we'll do Tori, Stephanie, we'll come to this side, and then we'll get ready to wrap up, because it's almost been an hour. Go ahead, Tori.
I would pick the word thought-provoking from that. I would say, just like you were mentioning, I have a lot of friends that are like, oh, I'm not creative and stuff like that. And I highlighted a part in here. It says creativity is something you are, not only something you do. And so I think, you know, he really pushed us to be more curious in that way of like the what ifs or what could be. And I think that really helps us, again, get closer to who we are, finding out what we like, what we don't like. I kind of remember him talking about when giving feedback or even just spotting things when we're out in nature or wherever, like, oh, I like that, oh, I don't like that, but maybe going a step further and like, why don't you like that? Or when giving feedback, like, well, why do you feel that way? And I think the more we do that, again, we get closer to ourselves and have a better understanding of ourselves, so.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead, Stephanie.
I would say my word would be inspired. There was a lot of things where I felt, wow, I can kind of go back into the things that I may have given up because I felt a certain way about creativity or had these misconceptions of myself. The one that I felt really inspired to do from the book was when he said to beat a pillow for 5 minutes and then write whatever comes to mind and don't like limit yourself, don't. And now there's all those lines in the back, so I was like, oh, it's meant to be. I'm gonna go do this sometime in my life. So I just thought it was an interesting exercise that would help get that creativity out there and also like not let myself be the limiter in the situation where I sometimes can be. So I felt definitely inspired to beat a pillow.
That's great. Hey, thank you. So yeah, anyone on? Lisa, go ahead.
I think of recognition and acknowledgement. As a young child, I wasn't acknowledged for my creative skills, and I don't think we do enough of that in our world today, and I think it's so important to really honor it and to promote it. So this was just like, yeah, the stamp of approval. So
very validating.
Yes.
So that's great. And then Mary, I saw a hand. Did you want to go?
Yeah, I think this book was very thought-provoking, but I'd also say I thought it was beautiful. I mean, it's just like a work of art. And I think someone said it earlier, but the way that he gets these thoughts on paper and is able to get it down in a way that moves everyone, but all of us probably were moved differently by different parts of the book. So I thought this was one part of it where he talked about a prism. So we think of a prism as, something very simple, but in a prism, a single beam of light enters and is broken into an array of colors. The self, too, is a prism. Neutral events enter and are transformed into a spectrum of feelings, thoughts, and sensations. And I just would pause, I underlined that one, I just thought about it for a while because there's so many different parts of this book that are just so beautifully worded, but also so thought-provoking for no matter who reads them and no matter what your form of art or creativity is.
Yeah, go ahead, Melissa.
Just one quick thing. I guess if I had to say a word, would be necessary, because I feel like this is something we need right now. But it just made me think that, kids, young people really need to get these messages. We're all getting it now in our own way and feel differently about it. But if these types of thoughts were in schools and were taught to kids who are just experimenting with creativity and are really hard on themselves, and also see a world where it's really difficult for them to feel like they can succeed, or there's all these impediments to them, and to get these kinds of messages at an earlier age would be more powerful even to me.
And that'll lead me into two of my wrap-up questions, because we are getting up on the hour. And you can just give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down or a sideways. But it's would you recommend this book to another reader? And then would you recommend this book to another book club for a discussion? Okay, okay, I'm seeing lots. Okay, I got double thumbs up over there, so that's great. Yay, wonderful. I've got some final questions for Trey. Do you have any final thoughts or parting wisdom? And then I'm curious as what you're currently reading or what you've got queued up for the next road trip.
To answer for the tone of the book, I would say inspiring as well. I would say inspiring to be okay with the outcomes of things for yourself and not for others, not for other people's views. I think nowadays we get caught up a lot in the comments or the feedback that we get from everybody else when we're doing something, when we're reading, when we're writing, when we're cooking, or anything else that we're doing. We're so focused on the outcome from somebody else, whereas if we're just inspired to be who we are, then we'll be happy with our work at the end of the day. And I think that's a big thing, is just to be happy with who we are and continue to know that if we're putting the work in, then that's all that matters. The outside eyes looking in don't really matter. So I'll say that about that. And then what was that question?
So your takeaways from the book and from this discussion, and then what you are currently reading, so we can all put our holds.
The book takeaways from the book. Like I said, I had a lot of pages marked in here as just one-liners or the two-liners or what have you. But it's just I would say what I just said: being confident in oneself, being confident in what we do on a day-to-day, and who we are, and the kind of people that we want to be, and just realizing that there's different ways, different avenues to get there, and to help people along the way, and try different things, do different things, step out of our comfort zones. That's a big thing for me, is trying to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Like a year or two ago, if somebody asked me to do this, I would be like, no. So just stuff like that. Now, a book that I'm reading right now is The Things They Carried, a Vietnam War book. So it's decent so far. I'm about halfway done. So that's what's on my list right now. And then next after that will be, I think I'm going to go with The Five Awakenings, or The Five Longings, one or the other. So. Yeah, so that's what's on cue for me.
Nice. Thank you. I just want to thank everyone for being here and being in the space for this great discussion that we had. I hope you found some practical takeaways from this book and that you made a new friend with your elbow mates. So a recording of this discussion will be made available on the library's YouTube channel within the next few weeks. For more information about upcoming library programs, you can visit our website at www.saclibrary.org, and you can search under events. So until next next time, just remember to drink water, wear sunscreen if you go outside, and be kind to each other. And we hope to see you all again soon. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Katie.
Yay.